Making headlines this hour, the chief government spokesperson Mohammad Hussein Sharif states that the highest economic priority for the administration is the repayment of its external debt. The second phase of the Cyber Resilience Fellowship, a joint initiative between the President's Office and Australia's Edith Cowan University, begins in the Maldives. Minister of Economic Development, Transport and Trade says activities for micro, small and medium-sized enterprises day were designed to reinforce administrative policies and assist young people entering the business sector.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Mariam Shaushat. The chief government spokesperson, Mohammad Hussein Sharif, says the highest economic priority for the administration is the repayment of external debts, warning failure which would plunge the nation into default and unleash widespread negative repercussions across the entire country.
Speaking during the Presser with the Spokes press conference series detailing the nation's debt management and economic trajectory, the chief government spokesperson noted that the country finds itself in a fragile economic state, with the administration expressing dissatisfaction regarding internal debt levels. While resolving this domestic strain remains a parallel objective, the administration has no intention of achieving economic reform at the expense of civilian necessities, asserting that the importation of essential oil, the disbursement of employee salaries, and the provision of medical care will remain fully supported. The chief spokesperson stated international financial institutions have advised the administration to aggressively curtail expenditures, yet the administration refuses to suspend citizen-focused services in the name of austerity. He observed that the government has made tangible progress in managing its fiscal standing over the past 2 years, guaranteeing that the impending debt obligations scheduled for September of this year will be fully met. International financial institutions have documented an overall improvement in the country's fiscal condition, echoing the administration's optimistic outlook. The chief government spokesperson said over a span of 2.5 years, the current administration has retired $1.29 billion in debt, successfully reducing the nation's total external debt to 44.5% of its gross domestic product by the end of May of this year.
The chief government spokesperson, Mohammad Hussein Sharif, announces that the Bank of Maldives BML has received approval for the drawings of all but one of the housing projects slated under the government's ambitious housing scheme, and construction is set to begin.
Speaking at the fourth meeting of the Presser with the Spokes series, Hussein Sharif told journalists that the administration has decided to increase the number of units allocated to the BML scheme by another 710 on top of the original 3,260 units awarded for the Hurumade Phase 2, Phase 3 and Vilimade developments. The additional units will bring the total number of homes to be built to around 4,000. The spokesperson also highlighted the government's continued reliance on the advice of financial institutions, noting that while the country is moving forward in light of recommendations from the banking sector, it must not lose sight of essential public services. According to the spokesperson, economic activity should be carried out while improving the nation's finances. Though financial institutions remain key partners, the government will balance these interests and seek the most conventional path forward. The 3,260 unit project was inaugurated by BML in March, marking a significant step towards addressing the Maldives' housing shortage.
The government's chief spokesperson, Mohammad Hussein Sharif, reveals the government has begun efforts to bring the historic Uske Kolo building located in Sultan Park under state management.
The historic building, which is currently managed by the Malé City Council, has recently been the subject of reports that it has been vandalized. Speaking during the Presser with the Spokes series, Sharif said that the Uske Kolo is one of the Maldives' most significant royal heritage buildings and remains an important part of the country's history. He added that such heritage sites are popular attractions for tourists and could be utilized to generate revenue. Uske Kolo is presently under the care of the Malé City Council, Concern over the site's preservation has intensified after individuals damaged the property. Graffiti has been sprayed on the walls of the building, which is the only remaining structure from the former Royal Palace complex. Police are now working to identify those responsible for the vandalism. The government also plans to develop an interactive museum within the area that includes Uskekolu. Sharif said that the government has repeatedly requested that the site be transferred to the relevant ministry responsible for the project, submitting formal requests and holding discussions with the city council. However, he said no positive response has yet to be received. Sharif described the damage caused to Uskekolu as deeply regrettable and said the government is treating the matter with the utmost seriousness. He added that the planned interactive museum is one of the government's key development projects and will feature engaging exhibits similar to those found in museums overseas. Uskekolu is a building that is more than a century old, constructed during the reign of Sultan Haji Imaduddin VI in the early 20th century. It is the only surviving structure from the former Royal Palace complex. The country's first national museum was also opened in this building 74 years ago.
The second phase of the Cyber Resilience Fellowship, a joint initiative between the President's Office and Australia's Edith Cowan University (ECU), begins in the Maldives.
The program is being delivered under the Australian Awards Fellowship Program 2026, with a team of researchers from Edith Cowan University arriving in the Maldives to continue the Cyber Security and Resilience Fellowship and strengthen cooperation between the Maldives and Australia. The fellowship aims to strengthen the security partnership between the two countries while enhancing the Maldives' cyber security capabilities and digital resilience. The second phase of the program is being held in Male from 28 June to 2 July. It builds on the knowledge and skills gained by participants during the first phase, which took place in Australia earlier this year. Experts from Edith Cowan University will deliver training sessions focused on cyber attack incident response, threat management, and strengthening national cyber security through practical exercises and simulation-based training. 15 participants from government ministries and state institutions who completed the first phase of the fellowship in Australia are taking part in the program. The fellowship is expected to strengthen the capacity of state institutions to respond to cyber threats and protect the Maldives' critical digital infrastructure. The initiative also supports President Dr. Mohamed Muiz's Maldives 2.0 digitalization vision. The President's office described the fellowship as an important step in strengthening relations between the Maldives and Australia through knowledge exchange and institutional development, while contributing to a secure and sustainable digital future for the Maldives. The first phase of the joint program between the President's Office and Edith Cowan University was held in Australia from the 19th January to 3rd of February this year.
Minister of Economic Development, Transport and Trade Mohammed Said says activities for Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises Day were designed to reinforce administrative policies and assist young people entering the business sector. In an interview with PSM News, Minister Said said the nationwide initiatives organised by the Business Centre Corporation BCC and the Ministry included the MSME Fest on 28 June at Hurumale Central Park, where 30 stalls provided resources to enterprises. Regional activities facilitated discussions with prospective entrepreneurs, marking what Minister Said characterized as a beginning. These efforts empower policy frameworks to expand entrepreneurial opportunities for youth. Underscoring this direction, Minister Said said President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu highlighted the creative and creator economies, detailing how digitalization helps Maldivian youth utilize global e-commerce platforms to market and monetize products. Tourist arrivals from India to the Maldives exceeds 60,000 so far this year, making India the country's sixth largest source market for visitors.
According to the latest statistics released by the Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation, the Maldives welcomed 1,036,558 tourists as of the 23rd of June. The figure represents a 5% decline compared with the same period last year. India ranked 6th among source markets with 60,515 arrivals, down from 64,147 during the corresponding period in 2025. Despite the decline, India remains one of the Maldives' key tourism markets. Visit Maldives continues to promote the destination in India and other major international markets. China remained the largest source market with 162,305 arrivals, followed by Russia with 144,552 and the United Kingdom with 84,787. Most visitors stayed at tourist resorts, which accounted for 71.8% of all arrivals. According to the ministry, 727,709 tourists stayed at resorts, while 238,417 chose guest houses. Hotels accommodated 24,978 visitors and 21,008 tourists stayed on safari vessels. The ministry's figure also shows that the Maldives is currently welcoming an average of more than 5,000 tourists a day. A total of 1,290 tourist establishments are currently in operation across the country.
The Maldives Monetary Authority MMA increases the amount of US dollars it sells to commercial banks by 25% to ease foreign currency shortages during the tourism off-season.
The increase came into effect and will remain in place for the next 3 months. According to the central bank, the additional dollar allocation is intended to help commercial banks meet demand for foreign currency at a time when tourism-related foreign exchange inflows typically decline. The MMA said the measure is temporary and aims to ease foreign currency liquidity pressures within the banking system while ensuring smoother access to US dollars for essential transactions. The authority added that the increased supply is expected to reduce foreign exchange shortages during the off-season and enable banks to better meet the need of their customers. The MMA also highlighted a significant increase in demand for foreign currency this year. During the first 5 months of 2026, the volume of foreign currency sold by the MMA through commercial banks to businesses and individuals increased by 72% compared with the same period last year. According to the central bank, the sharpest increase in demand has come from overseas travel for medical treatment and education. Foreign currency sold through commercial banks for medical treatment and education abroad rose by 78% during the first 5 months of 2026 compared with the corresponding period in 2025. The MMA also said foreign currency allocated for the import of fuel, staple food items, medicines, and medical equipment increased by 30% over the same period.
Maldives Airports Company Limited MACL formalizes a series of Memorandums of Understanding MOUs with 3 key national agencies aiming to significantly boost disaster and emergency management capacity at Welana International Airport BIA. The agreements were signed with the National Disaster Management Authority NDMA, the Maldives Meteorological Services and the Maldives Red Crescent MRC. Establishing a coordinated framework to handle a broad spectrum of emergencies from natural disasters to aviation-related incidents. MACL's CEO and Managing Director Ibrahim Sharif Mohammed signed the MOUs alongside State Minister at Environment Ministry Ibrahim Mimra, senior MACL officials and representatives of related agencies. The MOUs outline clear roles for each institution, joint training programs and regular emergency simulations. They also provide a structured communication protocol enabling real-time information sharing between MACL, the Meteorological Office and relief agencies. This framework will help ensure a swift, coordinated response to any crisis, reducing potential downtime and enhancing overall airport resilience. MACL reaffirmed its commitment to maintaining China's ambassador to Canada, Wang Di, says Geely Holding Group's Lotus brand electric vehicles will arrive in Canada next month under an agreement between Prime Minister Mark Carney and Chinese President Xi Jinping. They will be the first Chinese-owned and manufactured vehicles for sale under an agreement that allows up to 49,000 Chinese EVs to enter Canada annually at a reduced tariff rate, as Carney tries to diversify Canada's trade away from the US. Lotus Cars did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Canada's Global Affairs Department could not immediately comment on the first car's expected arrival. Wang said other Chinese brands, such as Chery and BYD, are coordinating with Canadian government agencies to complete steps before they can ship to Canada. Some cars arrived earlier for the companies to test in Canadian conditions, Canadian officials said previously. BYD Executive Vice President Stella Lee recently told Reuters the company would likely start sales next year. US-based Tesla has already imported Chinese-made vehicles into Canada. Canada also aims to attract joint ventures and investments into the country's EV supply chain. Wang said Chinese EV makers were interested in setting up joint ventures but would first focus on building sales and gauging market demand. Carney's decision to allow Chinese EV imports faced criticism from some US officials and lawmakers. South Korea and Japan reaffirms their commitment to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and agree to revive joint search and rescue drills in a step forward for security ties between the neighboring countries. Meeting in Seoul, South Korean Defense Minister Ahn Gil-baek and his Japanese counterpart Shinjiro Koizumi agreed to work on regional stability bilaterally as well as through their partnerships with Washington in the sixth round of talks between the two countries. South Korea's defense ministry said in a statement that both ministers shared a view to continue cooperation for maintaining regional peace and stability amid a grave security environment. South Korea and Japan, with US encouragement, have been working to develop closer ties since 2022 and overcome sometimes bitter historical differences, a policy continued by President Lee Jae-myung and Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi. Two leaders agreed in January 2026 to deepen shuttle diplomacy and in May expanded cooperation on energy. Tensions, however, remain. In February, Seoul protested against a Japanese government event commemorating a cluster of disputed islands known as Takeshima in Japan and Dokdo in South Korea, which controls the territory. Two-time Wimbledon quarter-finalist Madison Keys clinches her third Eastbourne Open title with a 7-5, 6-4 win over Tatiana Maria before the men's final between Zizou Bergs and Ugo Humbert was postponed due to rain. Germany's Maria, who won the Queen's Club Championship last year, saved 3 set points to make it 5-5 in the first set, but former Australian Open champion Keys won the next 2 games to take the first set. A break in the 7th game titled the second set in the Americans' favour as well, as she claimed another victory in the tournament where she won her first WTA title in 2014. 31-year-old Keys will face fellow American Kayla Day in the first round at Wimbledon. Bergs and Humbert are set to face off again in Wimbledon's first round, but their clash in the men's final in Eastbourne was interrupted by rain, with Humbert leading the first set 2-1. Dina Gazella, an 85-year-old Roman widow, no longer has any company at home since losing her husband in 2023 and her cat a year later. But thanks to smart technology, she is not alone. A team of social workers is keeping tabs on her remotely through an electronic bracelet that monitors her heart rate, sleep patterns, and allows her to call for help in an emergency. The device is part of a $456 million support scheme for the elderly, introduced last year by Rome's municipality with EU post-COVID funding, currently covering around 700 people. Local authorities are hailing the device as a key health prevention tool, especially in the midst of the ongoing deadly heat wave in Europe, which has seen Rome temperatures climb to the upper 30s degrees. The black plastic bracelet, Worn like a watch includes motion sensors that can detect accidental falls while constantly tracking Gazella's movements in and outside her house in the eastern outskirts of the Italian capital. The octogenarian looked sprightly as she pottered around her flat, showing pictures of her grandchildren, preparing espresso coffee and raving about her previous day's visit to a World War II bunker with a local community group. She said the bracelet gave her peace of mind. Psychologist Pomente coordinates a support desk for the bracelet scheme at the local pharmacy, where she and her team process applications to join and monitor subscribers' data through a computer screen. The bracelet is free, but some have reservations due to privacy concerns. Out of 70 people who initially joined at the pharmacy, only about 45 have stayed on, adding that she hoped to win them back. Her team operates from Monday to Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., while on weekends and at night time, notifications from the bracelets are sent to relatives via a mobile app. Over the past year, Pomente experienced 2 emergencies, a man who fell on the street and another who slipped off his wheelchair at home, and both were resolved by alerting relatives who came to the rescue. And that's all we have for you right now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more news updates. Have a good day. Goodbye.